Let's talk about orc vaginas. And this information is coming from a mating manual that I'm trying to get funded by my Ruby Gold and Diamond Tier subscribers. And this lore comes from the world of my mangas, The Knight of Sloth and Devil's Deal. So let's talk about orc pregnancy. So when a tatted up, tall lady orc wants to get down with a jacked up bandit orc, he's got to go through natural processes if he wants to get her preggers. So for obvious reasons, a lot of the genitals are blurred so we can look at the medical anatomy side of things. Where the vaginal opening is, you would expect to see a clitoris. However, female orcs do not have clits. But unlike the brimborn with their pubatoria and vaginal sleeves that kind of act as elongated grippers, the orc vagina is very similar to humans until you get to the cervical gate. But unlike with humans where the cervix would be the end of the line for this train, you actually end up pushing past the cervical gate into something called the cervical flow. And the cervical flow is specifically for the head of the orc member to deposit all of its juices, and you'll see why there's so much a little bit later. And then at the very bottom of the cervical flow is something called the dome gate. And the really cool thing is the dome gate is actually a sphincter. Because of how much genetic material an orc thing produces, it actually forces the sphincter open to start depositing all of this genetic material into the sperm dome. And it's within the sperm dome, a chemical is released that causes all of the little spermies to actually start fighting. And we'll see in the male anatomy how they actually fight it out. But basically, only the top tier guys end up surviving and going into the flow vine. And the flow vine is kind of like grapes, where there's a ton of dead ends here, and only the strongest and luckiest, honestly, will make it to the eggs here. And yes, you see multiple eggs. A single orc can end up getting pregnant with 6 children at a time. But even once they get into the eggs, the sperm have to still fight it out until there's only one left in each egg. And remember how I said that there's no clitoris for the orc you know what? Well, a really cool thing is you see how everything's kind of stacked on top of each other like this? The sperm dome actually is extremely sensitive and pleasurable. And if you're familiar with the male prostate, it actually acts very similar to that as it sits really close to the rectum. And so while, yes, going in through the front door can push on the inside of the sperm dome a little bit, which is pleasurable for them, you actually end up having a lot more contact whenever you go through the rectum. A lot more pressure is applied to the sperm dome, which means women get a lot more pleasure out of it. So if an orc is just doing it for fun, they will actually go through the back door rather than through the front. So yeah, if you want to try to have a baby, you go through the front door. If you're just here to have some fun, you go through the back door. And so if you want to get with a female orc, that's what you can expect. Next time, we're going to talk about the male orc and their appendages. But if you like this kind of stuff, go fund the mating manual. We have 10 more Ruby Gold subs that we need to go and fund this thing for.